Welcome back to another episode of Pretty Suited Podcast, where we discuss career, culture, and the commitment to being our best selves. I'm your host, Lauren A. And before we get started, I just like to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe this YouTube page so that you can get the latest content that is going to be kicking off in the new year. I am super duper excited about that. It's the last week of the year. So how are y'all doing? Is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? Because I'm getting there. I think it's just so crazy how it is the last week of the year. I feel like 2024 flew by. I feel like I'm in such a interesting space right now. Honestly and truly, with everything that's been going on, I've enjoyed my family this holiday season, but I'm really in a different headspace as to how I want to go about moving forward. My birthday's getting ready to come up. I'm an Aquarius baby. So just thinking about that, thinking about all that has transpired, all that will transpire, it's got my wheels turning. And I really feel like this is the perfect episode to kind of talk about all this stuff. This is episode 33. Let me tell y'all, for those who have been riding with me since episode 1, who's been subscribed to this podcast or listening via audio, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Hopefully I'm able to share a lot of, good content with you guys that will, help change your thought process, your perspective, or even just kind of have something to talk about with your friends. I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm trying to figure this thing out too. But I really do feel like based upon, my experiences and my life lessons that I can, share this stuff with you guys so that we really can grow and learn and develop. And again, this is the perfect episode to talk about this because we're going to dive into, what this year has kind of transitioned into and what 2025 is should be focused on from my perspective. We have seen across a lot of social media just conversations about the winter arc. I've heard this terminology before, and now mind you, I'm a millennial auntie. Okay. I don't know all the lingo that's coming out now. It changes every week. It's a new influencer saying something about some kind of phrase or whatever. And then we popularize that and make it a thing, right? I.e. narcissist, i.e. toxic, whatever word that we're using that's a buzzword. But winter arc started popping up. So what is that? Well, I did a little digging. And I'm like, what are the little girlies talking about right now? And winter arc showed up as something that usually starts around October and ends in December before the new year starts, where you get to basically transform yourself, get a head start on transforming yourself. So that way you can go into the new year with a new vision or a new lifestyle, new habits, things like that. And while this is nothing really new, since the beginning of time, I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper into what this all means and how, it's kind of lost its meaning in a sense, and then also how we can fix it in our way of thinking about it. So let's say you started off with all good intentions, just like the rest of us, in New Year, and then you've had your new diet, you got your your new gym membership, you have maybe bought a different wardrobe, you started to eat a little healthier, all that's all well and good, and then it kind of trickled out in the middle of the year, and you kind of got back on the hamster wheel of the habits that you've had. And then towards the end of the year, you thought to yourself, well, let me get back on the wagon and start to do the things that I initially set out to do. There's nothing new about this cycle. However, we have a tendency to romanticize kind of like our storyline, almost in a sense where we will continue to fall into the cycle because we're basically realizing that we're going to fail. For example, you get into trouble and the principal office calls your parents. If your parents are the type of people who always got you out of trouble, were you really worried in that principal's office? Were you really like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble? No, you knew your parents was going to bail you out. It's the same thing with you, right? It's the same thing when you look in the mirror. It's the same thing when you're dealing with these winter arcs. If you're going into a mindset of change where you really don't expect for yourself to change, but you kind of go through the motions just to be doing it. But in the back of your mind, you know you're going to fail, but then you could pick yourself back up again. Would you actually have incentive to change? I thought about this the other day because when I'm thinking about this whole winter arc thing, I think to myself, who actually sticks to all of the things that they said they're going to do? I thought that was, I mean, I don't know. You tell me the statistics. Raise your hand if you actually kept all of the resolutions that you set off to do in the beginning of the year. I think we have a habit of moving the goalpost for ourselves to where everything is moving. Like, okay, I'm going to start doing this, but then no, I can't do that. So I'm going to go back to that, but then I'm going to, keep that, but then I'm going to move that. We're moving the goalpost on ourselves, almost to our detriment, to where we actually don't end up changing. And I don't want to do that this year. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to do that this year. And I find it funny how, we fall into the same trap over and over again. Literally, the holidays roll around and we fall into even the habit of over consuming. I can't tell you how many TikToks that and Instagram reels that I've seen, where it's this new product or this new trend, this new anything, to where you think that, yes, it's the holiday season, I'm supposed to consume, that you end up over consuming for the sake of. How is that going to be helpful for you, especially when you say you're going to, by the new year, you're going to stop spending so much money? You just spent all the money. Like, I'm confused. We just spent all the money. So we fall into the overconsumption of goods. And then we end up on a never ending quest of perfection. What does perfection actually look like? Self-care and wellness has turned into a terminology that is way different than what it was intended to be. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. But we almost to the point we're consumed with perfection. What does that look like when we're trying to always constantly change ourselves? Right? Now, of course, I don't ever want to be the same person that I was, 10 years ago, or in the same position that I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, so on and so forth. But if we're always in a state of discontentment with who we are, we will always fall into a wheelhouse of trying to find perfect, especially with social media, giving us, everybody's highlight reel and never really too many failures. We look to our left and we look to our right and we feel like we're not doing enough, that we're not consuming enough, that we don't have the latest this, we don't have the latest that, the most expensive this, to the point where we're striving so much for perfect that we don't even know who we are anymore. I'm following this influencer to be able to look like her, dress like her, get her followers. I'm following this influencer to look like him, smell like him, get all the ladies like him, all the things, to where your identity has completely shifted into somebody else's. Right? I don't know about that. I think I started to really analyze this whole thing as I was, capping out my year. You can't help but to do some kind of self-reflection. It's so funny because a friend of mine was just talking about, what we learned in church on this past Sunday and so on and so forth. And the conversation of the word covet came into play. How, literally the Bible says that we should not covet, thy neighbor's wife and his ox and things like that. Basically meaning that we should not have so much of a desire that we want to possess it ourselves. And this is all we're doing all day. We're coveting all day, every day, especially with social media. Is, the sensationalism of it all makes you want to covet somebody else's life because essentially you feel like you're not doing enough. And I don't want to fall into that in 2025. I think that it's very unhealthy. I think I found myself doing that, whether it was looking at a different, influencer or looking at a different person's lifestyle. I felt like, well, why can't I do that? And there's nothing wrong with asking yourself that question. But when we fall into the habit of coveting that person's life, that's where it gets a little bit dangerous. First of all, we don't even know what that person had to go through to get there. We had no idea what that person had to do to get there. Whether it was some back alley stuff, people do a little couple things, right? Or it was some hurt, heartache, crying nights, moments, sacrifice, going without, like all those things come into the play when it comes to somebody's journey. And when with you looking from the outside looking in, you don't know that part. You don't know that part. You don't know that story. And so we have to be careful not to covet that person's experience or life or the things that they have because we don't know what they had to do to get there. And it's so easy to see the end result without really knowing what the journey looked like. And, um, I know that essentially the holidays can take a toll on you, emotionally, whether it was you had a holiday where hey, your family wasn't able to attend, or you lost a loved one recently and this was the first holiday that you didn't have them around. That can be tough. My heart goes out to anybody who has experienced anything like that because honestly, that space that you feel cannot be replaced by regard. I don't care what Birkin bag you buy. I don't care what trip you go on. I don't care what food you eat. That space is not going to be filled. And it takes some real healing and self-acceptance in order to be able to kind of let time do its thing and make it a little bit easier. But what can happen in this period is depression sets in for a lot of people who are going through things emotionally or physically or what have you in this time of year. And what happens? Our needs and desires to want to fill that void gets replaced with consuming. Because whether it's content, whether it's, gifts and clothes and Amazon wish list, whatever the case may be, it gets, just for the sake of, because we're not able to fill that void with the thing that we really do need. I've seen several people talk about, well, guess there ain't no matching pajamas for me this year. Like, everybody wants the matching pajamas, right? Everybody wants the matching pajamas in, the Instagram video in front of the tree and all that, with the Sears photo. Candid, everybody wants that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the idea of disappointment that it didn't happen for you, can lead some people feeling a little depressed. And essentially what comes after that? More consumption. So this winter arc just kind of threw me for a loop, honestly. Just kind of, I literally fell into a rabbit hole of like what this means and how we, the quest of reinventing ourselves in the latter part of the year. What does that do for us mentally? Honestly, what does that do for us in the long run? Is it helpful? I'm sure it can be. with, really setting up goals and really creating habits that will sustain. But the key word is sustain. And if your winter arc really doesn't involve you making real changes and having real healing and self reflection, is it really a winter arc or is it just another trend? I saw this clip where this girl called what we were just referring to as, the overconsumption of beauty products or just products in general, the new shirt, somebody's new bag. She called it the maintenance Olympics. And she's tired. Sis is tired. I think we're all tired a little bit of just being sold something all the time, especially when there's no real substance behind it. Now, if it's something that you actually and truly need or could use to make your life or existence a bit better, then by all means. But the maintenance Olympics, where you're just always trying to maintain yourself in some capacity or some way or some superficial level up, I'm tired. So check this clip out.
I quit.
It's a lot.
I have quit the maintenance Olympics. I just can't anymore. How much money do you spend when you do your whole monthly?
Say 300 to 1,000 for hair. Nails, 175. That's simple gel X, natural nails, getting a gel pedicure, which I'm trying to practice doing my own nails now. Don't look at them too close, but I'm trying to practice doing my own nails now because, baby, it's expensive, okay? Nails used to be $60 hands and feet.
Right.
Maybe even less. I have microblading, don't do my brows, but I do wax them sometimes to keep the shape, and I would say that probably ranges about 20, 30. That trip to go get beauty products, your face cleansers and all that, definitely ranging from 200 to 400 easily, just to re-up on stuff. And it's just not cute.
It's not. And the bag be this little when you walk out.
With nothing in it.
With nothing in it.
Man, what she mentioned in that last sentence was everything. She said the bag was this little and there's nothing in it. Now, I could be in my philosophical bag real quick, and when I heard that, I heard a couple of different things. Not only was there nothing in the bag, as opposed, in regards to quantity, right? You go into Sephora, you go into Ulta or these other places, and you get all these hauls of beauty products and lip liners and lip glosses and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I like a little lipstick, lip gloss here and there, a little eyeliner. I just found a mascara that actually works. So, but I digress. There's nothing wrong with that. But when we talk about quantity, because of course the price of everything, you do feel like you're overspending on these products that probably weren't so expensive before, and you're just not getting that much in return. So something that you maybe have been able to get, 5 or 6 or 7 products for $100 back in the day, you can't walk out of there with 6 products without spending $200. So it's just kind of insane how that has, inflation has caused just to be less items in the bag. But the other thing that I heard, which I think was very important, was that there's nothing in the bag, meaning the superficial weight that it holds in our lives, to where, yes, it's used for enhancements, but it doesn't hold any asset to your life in a sense of giving you passive income or, helping you succeed in your job or your business. It's not really giving you any kind of depth to yourself that's making you a better person, anything like that. It's really just superficial enhancements. There's nothing in that bag that you're spending that much money on monthly. And, it's kind of funny because I just recently went over my budget. I never was the type of person to write my budget down or to have some kind of spreadsheet, or which is funny because I actually am very much a spreadsheet girl at work. I am a spreadsheet girly. If I'm, managing and supervising and coordinating a bunch of people, I need my spreadsheets. But when it comes down to budget, I never was that kind of, girl to do that. And something told me, I've just been recently reading Think and Grow Rich, as well as a couple other self-help financial books, just to kind of like change my mindset a little bit around that. And I decided to actually write out my monthly budget with my bills and my expenses and my income. And when I tell y'all, in the month of December, I spent so much money on frivolous things. I should be ashamed of myself. Like, honestly and truly, I should be ashamed of myself for spending. I'm sorry, audio listeners, if you're hearing the clinking of my bracelets. I'm going to take that off. But I am so sorry that I have spent so much of my money. And it's so crazy because I'll be like, well, what did I spend my money on? And then I'll just be like, oh well, I'll get it back. That kind of mentality. Because I've always been a hustler. I've always been a worker. That's never been a thing for me to like feel like I'm just not going to get it back. Well, not in my adult years. When I was younger, that was on the conversation. But when I sat there and I saw on that screen how much I spent on eating out, how much I spent on gifts, how much I spent on travel, how much I spent on parking, how much I spent on even just gas, how much I spent on just what food, going to the grocery. When I compare in my mind what I used to spend versus what I'm currently spending on these things, it is outrageous. My money is literally seeping through my fingers, and that has to come to a stop. The hemorrhaging of the overspending has got to come to a stop. To the point where if we're spending money on things and we don't really have much to show for it outside of just a good time, how beneficial was that decision? Now, I'm going to say I am an advocate of you can't take it with you, right? I'm an advocate of you're here for a good time, not a long time. I listen to Drake. I'm an advocate of that. However, as we grow into our adult years and the economy is doing such a terrible job right now of changing and adjusting to the average person, not the 1%, we have to kind of do a better job of allocating our funds in a more responsible way. And that is one of my goals of 2025 is to do a better job of that. Whether that's putting money aside towards, rainy day. I have a little savings, but I need more, right? We never know what's going to happen. Also putting money aside towards my retirement, more money aside towards my retirement, putting more, paying off a few things. That way I don't have that, expense every month. Now, if you're doing all these things, if you're maximizing your 401k, if you're maximizing your stocks and investments, if you are, everything is paid off in your house, you have no debt and the 800 FICO score and all the things, then kudos to you. You can go ahead and cut this off. But but if you're a person like me who has a little bit of room for improvement in some areas of opportunities to kind of do better in that financial space, then I'm with you. We talk about health being holistic, and I am a full believer in holistic health. Financial health is one of those things. And outside of just having a lot of money, being fiscally responsible and being able to utilize your money to your advantage, to where it's boosting you, that is growing with you, that is attracted to you. That's the most important thing. Now, not being not having a scarcity mindset, right? Because we talked about that in a few episodes ago. I don't want to have a scarcity mindset where I feel like I got to hold on to money with a tight grip because it's never going to come back to me. I don't believe in that. I don't think that that's the power and the frequency of money. But what I do believe that is if you show money that you're responsible, it's like a man, right? If you're a girl, it's like a man. If you can take care of your man, he'll come back to you, right? Hopefully, idealistically. If you take care of your woman, she'll come back to you, right? Same thing with money. Money, if you take care of her, if you allocate her right, if you talk to her nice, if you spend her appropriately, if you reinvest her and make sure she has return, that's when you'll start to see the abundance. But just the frivolous spending on things that really don't bring any value to your life outside of a temporary moment, money's gonna be like, girl, you don't know what to do with me. You don't know what to do with me. I don't think I need to come back here because you don't know what to do with me. No, me and money need to be besties. So I need to treat her as such, right? I'm currently in the process. You know, I'm a book girly now. I used to be in the past, but you know, with me being busy and everything like that, I've gotten back into audiobooks. Check out Pretty Suited Book Report. That is also on this channel. I'll be putting out more videos in 2025 since I'm really getting into the rhythm of reading and listening to books. But I'm listening currently to this book called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPera. I believe I said that right. But this book is really digging into me, like as far as like it's getting in my business when it comes to the thought process and how that influences your everyday, your childhood trauma, your the things that you're suppressing, the stress levels and how that's manifesting and how you're being perceived in the world and how energy is returned to you. Like all that is connected. She's actually a holistic psychologist. And, as I am very much, like I said, big on holistic health, a lot of the things she's talking about really does resonate with me, especially in regards to how connected your mind and your body is. You're not going to be able to cure just high blood pressure with one thing, or you're not going to be able to cure just, anxiety with one thing. It's all connected. So I really am enjoying this book. If you have not listened to it, it's not an ad, but check it out. It is called How to Do the Work. But anyway, in this book, she really gave this quote that has resonated with me all day. I started reading it while I was at work, and she literally said it. She literally said, "You are the thinker of your thoughts." Now, I know that sounds basic, but think about it. You are the thinker of your thoughts. What we tend to do is have our thoughts take control of us to the point where we are our thoughts, when our thoughts are really a manifestation of our consciousness. And so if we can be the master of our thoughts, our whole life will change. Instead of letting our thoughts run us, we influence our thoughts. And I know it sounds pretty simple because you could think to yourself like, hey, I'll just think about, rainbows and sunshines and unicorns. But what eventually will creep up after that picture? Something that you got to do later on today. Something your boss said to you. Something that your spouse didn't do. Or something that happened to you when you were 6 years old will literally start to creep up eventually after you try to think a positive thought. And why that is that you just had so much practice with your mind going and ruminating on these things that are literally self-defeating or, negative or whatever case may be, that it's just an automatic thing, right? But if you actually train your thought process to be something to where you can use it to your advantage, to that you can use it to your benefit, then you really won't have those external thoughts that are detrimental to you. But that takes practice. I know for a fact that me and the things that I've gone through personally or professionally, that takes a toll on the decisions that I make in my current life. But how much of that am I going to allow to just keep happening? How much of that am I going to allow to influence and change my future? I can't let that happen. I can't let my past me dictate my future me. And she made a great point that, you have to be kinder to your future self than your past self. The past already happened. The past already happened almost to the point now, of course, you can learn from it. You can take the tidbits and the gems that you've gathered along the way and make a difference and maybe change or do something differently in the future. But for you to have your past just keep chastising you and beating you upside the head with the same point and the same trauma and the same mishaps, what makes you think that's not going to influence your future? What makes you think that's not going to stop you from being the best person that you can be? And I'm not all for the whole winter arc story where it's just a season in your life where you're making these changes. This takes a continuous effort. And, whether you get the help of a therapist or you start to really focus more on the things that can help you, as opposed to maybe doom scrolling on Instagram, still doing compare and contrast, still kind of like, listening to other people's thoughts and opinions that kind of break you down. But maybe listening to self-help books, maybe, starting to journal in the morning and practicing positive affirmations or things where you're constantly creating a routine, because it's really about the routine. The routine is what gets you through those times where, you don't feel like doing it, right? Because now it's not about that I'm just choosing to do it. This is my routine. My routine is to talk to myself with kindness. My routine is to eat in a healthier way that's respectful of my temple. My routine is to go to sleep at a decent hour so that I can wake up and feel refreshed and have a full mind. My routine is to journal out my negative thoughts so that way I can redirect them into positive ones. Those are routines that have to happen. Otherwise, you kind of fall back into those cyclic patterns of I'll just get to it during the winter arc, or I'll just get to it during this certain time of year. And I know that's tough. Because it takes kind of like some mental work in a time where, shoot, we're all tired and we're exhausted of just all the information all at once. I know I am. But I think just quieting out the noise of the other things and replacing that with the things that you need to be better, I think that's a good start. You can't have all the trash in a pile. You just can't. Something has got to move out of the way to get the new things in that's going to do better for you. Because you piling on good routines on top of bad habits, on top of good routines, on top of bad, something's got to go. And I vote for the stuff that's causing me to relive karmic cycles. That got to go. I can't just keep doing that. Because otherwise, what are we going to be doing on December 31st? That same vision board with the same elements that you were supposed to achieve 3 years ago. You were supposed to achieve that 3 years ago, girl. We're going to get it together in 2025. I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in us. So now we're getting into our watch list of the week. So this week's watch list of the week is about a movie that I really had no intention on watching. On Christmas Eve, my brother in my mom's living room just decided to say, "Hey guys, let's watch a movie." I'm thinking we're going to throw on, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. That's a classic, right? So I'm thinking that we're going to, throw on some Christmas classic. But he turned on this movie called The Forge. This movie was very surprising to me. The story entails a young guy around 19 years old who is still living with his mom, but kind of just going down the wrong path. Not necessarily like into heavy drugs or anything like that, but just like being a little disrespectful, hanging out with the crew, with the crowd, not really having a job, not really able to help his mother, not going to school, things like that, but just kind of just hanging out, taking up space, and just feeling himself with no sense of urgency. And, over time, he meets this gentleman as he does try to apply for a job who owns a fitness company who sells like fitness products. And this older gentleman, very handsome man, takes to him almost like in a father-son relationship. And he instills his ideas and his relationship with Christ onto the boy. And the boy just slowly but surely grows with his relationship with Christ and his forgiveness of his father that left, and his mindset, you could just see, just does a complete 180. So that way he's more respectful, that he's more grateful, that he's more hardworking at work. He's not taking advantage of those around him and really trying to make a difference. And you see the change in him. His mother, God bless her, just like most mothers, develop some sort of prayer circle with the members of her community to keep this boy on track. Because as a single mother, unfortunately, it is hard to raise a boy. Not only a boy, it's hard to raise a black man in America. And so what she does is, yes, the child's father has left, but what can she do in the situation outside of the yelling, the screaming, and the, violence towards him? She can gather her friends and channel and pray to God that he has his hands on her son. And that's exactly what happened. And to the point where she is, elated with joy that he has made this change. And you start to see just how he is going to literally pay it forward onto everybody in his life and those around him. So to have that same story, to have that same relationship with God. What this movie did show was how important it is for a male to have positive males around him as well. Like, I think that people underestimate the company that you keep. And there's nothing wrong with that boy hanging with, a few of his guy friends, going to the basketball court, talking to girls. That's all the things teenagers do. But without that kind of like guardrail of positive reinforcements coming from another male, it can get tricky. It can get tricky with the decisions that they end up making. And what this movie did show was such a positive circle of men who are all going through things in their life, but they lean on one another through fellowship and brotherhood and dinners and things like that to kind of keep each other in check and accountable and on the right path. And even in those tough times to kind of like help them get over that with the help of their circle. So, and the Forge is such a powerful name that I kind of looked up after, because in my mind I'm thinking about a pigeon forge, right? I'm thinking about something like that. But that mindset or that idea really comes from how a blacksmith or a welder would use like the fire to develop and to create like a sword or any kind of like metal a garment or things like that. They use the forge to do that. You shape them, you bend it, you use the heat to create it. And that's the same concept in the things that we're going through in our lives, which I thought was perfect for this episode because, going back to us changing and the cycles in the new year, like the forge is something that heat, when things go wrong in your life, or when those challenges or those journeys or those burdens that you face, that's the heat. That's the heat that really shapes you ultimately. Yeah, it sucks. Don't get it twisted. It's not a fun thing to go through, but it's really those things that kind of form you and mold you into into the sharp iron that God wants you to be. And in that movie, that's exactly what happened. And he also, I think, signifies your people around you, right? You guys are going to form each other, just based off of how you keep each other accountable and how develop with one another. So I really enjoyed that movie. Check it out. It's on Netflix. It's called The Forge. It is a faith-based movie, which I think is very important for us to have outside of just, the typical stereotypical movies. But I think that this movie was very helpful. It was mostly a Black cast, and it also had a great message. And it's called The Forge. Now let's get into our tune of the week. So this week's tune of the week is a little bit on a lighter note. We got a little deep this episode, but I really think that it was important for us to round out the new year with just kind of like a shift in our mindset as we are moving forward, and that we are growing not only in just cycles, but for the long haul. So I wanted to just think about and listen to something light today as I was, reading my audiobook, and I saw a song called Fill Me In by Rochelle Jordan. Now, mind you, I've never heard of her before in my life. Never heard of her. And this is where the For You page actually comes in handy. They suggested this song to me, and I just clicked on it in a random just to kind of just see what new music has come out. Now it is fourth quarter. There's not much music coming out, so I was kind of limited on what I had to choose from. But anyway, I clicked on it, and the song actually lifted my spirits. When I say that, it helped me kind of get through my last minute grocery shopping today, as I'm preparing for New Year's, but it was very light. It was very up-tempo. It was very upbeat. And it put a smile on my face because it kind of reminded me of summertime, being on a boat somewhere, and in the dreary weather that we have going on here in Georgia, where it's been rainy and cloudy for the past, week or so. I thought this song was perfect to kind of like get me back into the rhythm and get me excited about the new year. So I hope in the new year we're getting better music, and music that kind of like fits the mood of positivity. And I thought this was a really good start to kind of just feeling good. So if you have not already, check it out. It's called Fill Me In by Rochelle Jordan. She has a very nice voice, very, almost house EDM, but not so much. It's kind of like poppy too. So if you like that, it is a vibe. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Oh my gosh, guys, it's 2025. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, man, 2025. God damn, it was just 2020. It was just 2020, like, 2 days ago. But that's crazy. That is so crazy. I'm absolutely elated to see what's to come in the new year. I'm taking it easy, but I'm also going hard. So get ready. We are going to create more content, have more of these conversations in the new year. I'm going to have a few goals in mind. I don't want to say them out loud because, people try to plot on you. But but please believe I'm going to be sharing those accomplishments and having these conversations with a broader audience. I speak it into existence. I'm really going to be pushing the conversation forward, whether it's through professional development, whether it's just through lifestyle and culture, or whether it's through books and different kind of media strategies. So Cat Williams, stay out of anybody's interview chair. We don't need anything popping off like we did last year. But anyways, as always, you cannot manifest anything that you don't feel like you deserve. So create the life that you want and look to the sky for grace. Until next time, bye.